The station hummed with the quiet sounds of night cycle. Ambassador Kira Chen sat at her desk in her quarters on Station Nexus 7, reviewing diplomatic documents on her datapad. Her tea had gone cold an hour ago, but she did not notice. She was too focused on the treaty proposals scattered across her workspace. Outside her window, thousands of stars glittered in the endless dark. Ships moved between docking ports like fireflies. The Galactic Council Station was always busy, even at night. Representatives from hundreds of worlds lived and worked here, trying to maintain peace across the galaxy. Kira pushed a strand of dark hair behind her ear and made another note. She was proposing something radical, something that would save countless lives. But it would also hurt the profits of some very powerful beings. She knew this made her a target. She had known for weeks. Somewhere in the galaxy, perhaps light years away, Vexthar prepared for his assignment. He was shadow-cased, one of the most feared beings in known space. His people could teleport anywhere they had seen before. They could appear and disappear in the blink of an eye. For 10,000 years, no target had ever escaped a shadow-cased assassin. Not one. Vexthar studied the holographic image of his target. A human, female, young by galactic standards. She looked harmless, but the contract price was enormous. Someone wanted her gone very badly. He memorized every detail of her face, her quarters, her routines. He had been watching her for 3 weeks, teleporting in and out, learning her patterns. Tonight would be the night. Midnight station time. She would be alone at her desk, distracted by work. He would appear directly behind her, swift and silent. It would be over in seconds. Kira glanced at the chronometer on her wall. 3 minutes to midnight. She set down her datapad and stood slowly. Her heart beat faster, but her hands were steady. She reached into her desk drawer and pulled out a simple kitchen knife. She turned her chair around to face the empty space behind her desk. Then she waited. Vexthar closed his eyes and focused. He pictured the exact spot behind Kira's chair. He had memorized that location perfectly. The teleportation field built around him, like invisible lightning. Space folded, reality bent, and then he was there. He materialized in absolute silence, his blade already moving toward where her neck should be. His species had perfected this art over millennia. Appear, strike, disappear. 3 seconds, never more. But the chair was turned around. Kira Chen sat facing him, her brown eyes calm and alert. A kitchen knife pressed gently against his throat before he could even process what was happening. "Hello, Vexthar," she said quietly. "I have been expecting you." Vexthar froze. Not from fear, from complete and total shock. In his 300 years as an assassin, in 10,000 years of shadow-cased history, this had never happened. No one predicted their arrival. No one. Teleportation left no warnings, no sounds, no energy signatures that other species could detect. How? The word came out as a hiss. His 4 eyes widened, their violet glow intensifying. Kira did not move the knife. She did not press harder, but she did not lower it either. "May I explain before you try again? I promise it will be interesting." Vexthar's mind raced. He could teleport away instantly, reappear somewhere else. Try again. But his professional pride demanded answers. How had this soft, powerless human done the impossible? "Speak," he said. "You have been watching me for 23 days. Kira began. Her voice was conversational, as if they were discussing the weather. "I started noticing small things on day 4. The air pressure in my quarters would drop for exactly 0.3 seconds, then return to normal. The temperature would shift by 0.2 degrees. My papers would flutter slightly, though the air circulation system was off." Vexthar said nothing. His blade remained at his side, unmoving. At first I thought it was a station malfunction, Kira continued. But the pattern was too precise. Always when I was alone. Always, in different locations around my living space. Someone was appearing and disappearing. Watching me. Learning my routines. Junhold Weralata Khan. She smiled slightly. Your species is legendary, Vex Thar. Everyone knows about shadow-cased assassins. I researched your methods. You always study your targets, for weeks. You memorize every detail. You choose the optimal moment. This does not explain how you knew when I would strike, Vex Thar said. His confusion was giving way to fascination. Psychology and mathematics, Kira replied. Humans are not telepathic. We do not have natural weapons or armor. We cannot teleport or phase through walls. So, we developed other skills. We learned to read patterns. To predict behavior. She gestured slightly with her free hand. You had been observing me for 3 weeks. That is the average duration based on records of other shadow-cased contracts. Tonight is a rest cycle before important council votes. I would be alone, distracted, and my death would create maximum political chaos. The optimal time was midnight. When station security changes shifts, the optimal position was directly behind me, where I usually sit. Vex Thar felt something he had not experienced in decades. Respect. You had no technology? He asked. No scanners? No precognitive abilities? Just a notebook and basic observation, Kira said. And one more thing. I knew that if you were professional enough to watch for 3 weeks, you were professional enough to be curious about how I did this. She slowly lowered the knife. Would you like some tea? She asked. I think we should talk. Vex Thar stared at her. His contract was clear. Kill the human ambassador. Collect payment. Leave. But something stopped him. In 300 years, no one had ever treated him like a person. They begged, fought, ran, or died. None had ever offered him tea. Why? He asked. Because someone paid you to kill me, Kira said, walking to her small kitchen area. And I want to know who. I think you might want to know why. And I suspect we can help each other. She began heating water, her back to him. Completely vulnerable. Completely trusting. Vex's Thar could kill her now. Complete his contract. Instead, he found himself saying, What kind of tea? Kira poured hot water into 2 ceramic cups. The tea leaves swirled and bloomed, releasing a gentle floral scent into the air. She carried both cups to the small table near her window and set them down. Vex Thar had not moved from his spot behind her desk. His blade remained at his side, but he had not teleported away either. Please, sit, Kira said, gesturing to the chair across from her. Vex Thar moved slowly, his 4 eyes never leaving her. His species was tall and lean, with silver-gray skin that seemed to shimmer slightly in the dim light. He sat carefully, his movements precise and controlled. Assassins were always controlled. You are very calm for someone with a death contract on their head, he observed. Kira sipped her tea. Being afraid would not change anything. You could have killed me a dozen times these past 3 weeks. You still could. Fear would only cloud my thinking, and right now, I need to think clearly. Humans are strange, Vex Thar said. He picked up his cup, studying it. Your species has no natural defenses. You are weak, physically. You cannot sense danger like most species. Yet you spread across your world, and now across the stars. How? We adapt, Kira said simply. We watch. We learn. We use tools, and our minds because we cannot use claws or telepathy. She set down her cup. Tell me, Vex Thar, in your 300 years as an assassin, have you ever asked why someone wanted a target dead? Vex Thar was quiet for a moment. The contract is the contract. The why does not matter. It should, Kira said. Especially this time. She pulled up a holographic display from her datapad. Images and documents floated in the air between them. These are my treaty proposals. I want to create peace agreements between 12 systems currently buying weapons from the Krillian Syndicate. If these treaties pass, those systems will not need weapons anymore. The Syndicate will lose billions of credits every year. Vexthar leaned forward, his eyes scanning the documents. The Krillian Syndicate hired me, he said slowly. They did not say why. They never do. They hired you because I am close to succeeding, Kira explained. In 2 days, the Galactic Council votes on the first treaty. If it passes, the others will follow. Thousands of lives will be saved. But the Syndicate will lose their biggest customers. She met his eyes directly. You are a weapon, Vexthar. A very effective one. But someone is pointing you at the wrong target. I am not your enemy. I am trying to stop war, not start it. Vexthar set down his teacup with a soft click. You make it sound simple. But I have a contract. My people have honor codes that go back thousands of years. If I do not complete a contract, I am dishonored. No shadow caste has ever broken a contract. What if there was another way? Kira asked. What way? Kira stood and walked to her window. The stars glittered beyond the transparent aluminum. Your honor code requires you to complete the contract. The contract says to eliminate me as a threat to the Syndicate's interests. It does not specifically say, you must kill me, does it? Vexthar tilted his head, considering. The contract says to remove you permanently from the political situation. Then make me disappear. Kira said, turning back to him. I vanish from public life. Everyone thinks I am dead or gone. The Syndicate believes you succeeded. Your honor remains intact. But I continue my work in secret, where they cannot target me again. They would discover the deception eventually, Vexthar said. Perhaps, Kira agreed. But by then the treaties would be signed and implemented. It would be too late to stop them. Vexthar stood, his tall frame towering over her. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Why do you trust me with this plan? I could simply kill you and collect my payment. Your clever words would not stop my blade. I trust you because you are still here, Kira said. You could have left the moment I explained how I predicted your arrival. You could have tried again from a different angle. But you stayed. You drank tea with me. You listened. That tells me you are more than just a weapon. I am curious, Vexthar admitted. Your species fascinates me. You should not have survived in this galaxy. You are too weak, too soft. Yet you negotiate treaties while others make war. You predict teleportation with mathematics, while others use psychic powers. You offer tea to assassins. He turned to face her. But there is a problem with your plan. The Syndicate does not trust easily. They will want proof of your death. Visual confirmation. Perhaps even DNA evidence. Kira smiled. I have been thinking about that too. Station Nexus 7 has a theater district. Many species enjoy performance art. I have a friend who does special effects for shows. She owes me a favor. Special effects. Vexthar repeated slowly. Understanding dawned in his violet eyes. You would stage your death. A very public, very dramatic death, Kira confirmed. With you as the star performer. The legendary shadow-cased assassin strikes again. Witnesses see me fall. Scanners detect the right biological signs. Security finds what they expect to find. Everyone believes the story. See. Vexthar paced the room, his mind working through the details. It could work. But what about after? You cannot simply hide in your quarters forever. No, Kira agreed. But with your help, I could go places no human could normally reach. The Syndicate has operations across the galaxy. Hidden facilities. Secret meetings. With your teleportation abilities and my analytical skills, we could gather evidence. Real evidence. Enough to bring them down. Legally. You want to turn me into an investigator? Vexthar said. There was something almost like amusement in his voice. I want to give you a choice, Kira said. You can complete your contract the traditional way and remain a weapon, or you can complete it my way and become something more. Someone who stopped a war instead of enabling it. Vexthar was silent for a long moment. Outside the window, a transport ship docked with a soft clang that echoed through the station's superstructure. Finally, he spoke. There are complications you have not considered. Such as? The Syndicate is impatient. They sent me because I am the best. But I am also expensive. If I take too long, they will send others. Cheaper, less professional assassins. They will not drink tea first. As if summoning them with his words, Kiara's door suddenly exploded inward. The explosion was not large, but it was effective. The door to Kiara's quarters flew across the room and crashed into her desk. Smoke filled the air. 3 figures stepped through the opening, their weapons already raised. They were Kryn enforcers, mercenaries from a species known for brutality rather than skill. Their exoskeletons gleamed dull gray in the emergency lighting that had activated. Each one stood nearly 7 feet tall, with 4 arms ending in mechanical claws. Their weapons were cheap plasma rifles, the kind that left messy evidence behind. Target acquired. The lead enforcer growled in Galactic Common. His voice was rough and mechanical through his helmet speakers. Kira dove behind her overturned desk, her heart hammered in her chest. This was different from talking with Vexthar. These were not professionals who followed honor codes. These were thugs sent to finish a job quickly and violently. The first plasma bolt scorched the air where she had been standing a moment before. It hit her window, and cracks spider-webbed across the transparent aluminum. The second bolt melted a hole in her desk. Then Vexthar moved. One moment, he was standing by the window. The next moment, he simply was not there. The enforcers jerked their weapons around, searching for him. They had not even seen him disappear. Vexthar materialized directly behind the rear enforcer. His blade moved in a precise arc, cutting through the mechanical connections of the enforcer's exoskeleton. The suit seized up, its servos locked. The enforcer toppled backward like a statue, unable to move, but unharmed. The other 2 spun around, firing wildly. Plasma bolts seared through empty air. Vexthar was already gone, reappearing between them. He struck with his fists this time, not his blade. 2 quick blows to neural clusters that every species shared. Both enforcers dropped their weapons and collapsed, unconscious. The entire fight lasted 6 seconds. Kira stood slowly from behind her desk, her ears ringing from the plasma fire. Vexthar stood among the fallen enforcers, his breathing steady and calm. He looked at her, then at the 3 bodies on her floor. You defended me, Kira said quietly. Vexthar tilted his head. I am, Kira said. She stepped over a fallen weapon and moved to examine the enforcers. You realized something. If they kill me, your contract becomes worthless. The Syndicate does not pay twice for the same job. They sent these 3 because they thought you were taking too long. That is practical reasoning, Vexthar agreed. But it was not what I thought in that moment. Then what did you think? Vexthar was quiet for several seconds. I thought that you offered me tea, and that no one should die for trying to prevent a war. Station security would arrive soon. The explosion would have triggered alarms throughout this section. Kiara knew they had perhaps 2 minutes before armed guards sealed off the area. We need to leave, she said. Both of us. Right now. Where would we go? Vexthar asked. Kiara grabbed her datapad from the damaged desk. and pulled a small emergency bag from her closet. She had prepared it weeks ago, just in case. Can you teleport to places you have only seen in images? If the images are detailed enough, yes. Why? Kira pulled up a holographic map on her datapad. 3 days ago, I tracked a suspicious financial transfer from the syndicate to a shell company on Margin Station. The transfer was huge. Billions of credits. I think they are planning something big, something beyond just stopping my treaties. She zoomed in on a specific location. This warehouse district is supposedly abandoned, but the power consumption data does not match. Someone is using massive amounts of energy there. I was going to send this information to council investigators, but now we can go there ourselves. Vexthar studied the images. Margin Station was an old mining facility turned trade hub. Located 3 systems away, the warehouse district was a maze of old industrial buildings, most half collapsed and forgotten. I can reach it, he said, but I cannot take you with me. Shadow-cased can only teleport ourselves and small objects we are holding. Then teach me what to look for. Kira said. You go first. Scout the area. Make sure it is safe. Then come back for me with information. We work together. Footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. Security was close now. Voices shouted commands. Vexthar made a decision. There is another way. I can take you, but not through teleportation. We use the ventilation system to reach the docking bay. There are always small private ships for hire. We fly to Margin Station conventionally. That will take hours, Kira said. The syndicate will know I am alive. They will be hunting for both of us. Yes, Vexthar agreed. But we will be hunting them as well. And you were right about one thing, Ambassador Chen. I am more than a weapon. It is time I proved that. He moved to the damaged door and looked out cautiously. Security teams were sealing off the corridor intersections, moving methodically toward her quarters. Standard procedure for a security breach. There is a ventilation access panel behind your bathroom mirror, Vexthar said. I noticed it during my surveillance. It leads to the main air circulation shaft. From there, we can reach the maintenance tunnels. How do you know about the maintenance tunnels? Kira asked as she followed him. I know everything about this station, Vexthar said. I have been teleporting through it for 3 weeks, remember? I have seen places even the station commander does not know exist. They pulled away the mirror and opened the access panel. The shaft beyond was narrow and dark, barely wide enough for a person to crawl through. Kiara could hear the hum of air circulators somewhere in the distance. You first, Vexthar said. I will seal the panel behind us and mask our trail. Kira climbed into the shaft. The metal was cold against her hands. Behind her, she heard Vexthar say something in his own language. It sounded like a prayer, or perhaps an oath. Then he climbed in behind her and pulled the panel shut. Security burst into her quarters 10 seconds later. They found 3 unconscious enforcers, a destroyed door, and no sign of Ambassador Kira Chen. The station went into immediate lockdown. Every ship was grounded. Every exit was sealed. But deep in the maintenance tunnels, moving through passages marked on no official map, a human ambassador and a shadow-cased assassin made their way toward the docking bays. They moved in silence, 2 beings who should have been enemies, now working together toward a common goal. Kira did not know what they would find on Margin Station. But she knew one thing with certainty. She was no longer facing the syndicate alone. And that changed everything. The maintenance tunnels were darker than Kiara expected. Her small light stick cast flickering shadows on the narrow walls. Vexthar moved ahead of her like a ghost, completely silent despite his height. He seemed to see perfectly in the darkness, guiding them through turns and intersections that all looked identical to her. They had been crawling and walking for nearly an hour. Kira's knees hurt, and her shoulders ached from the cramped passages. But she did not complain. Behind them, Station security was surely searching every public area. Down here, in the forgotten spaces between decks, they were invisible. "Stop," Vexthar whispered suddenly. Kira froze. She could hear voices echoing through the metal walls. Security teams, searching nearby corridors. The voices faded after a moment, moving away from their position. "We are close to Docking Bay 12, Vexthar said quietly. "It handles private charters and small cargo vessels. Less security than the main bays." "How do we get from here to a ship without being seen?" Kira asked. "We do not hide," Vexthar said. "We create a distraction." He led her to a junction box mounted on the tunnel wall. His fingers moved over the controls with surprising delicacy for someone trained to kill. "This controls the environmental systems for the entire bay section. If I trigger a malfunction, the safety protocols will evacuate the area. We will have approximately 4 minutes to board a ship before maintenance crews arrive." "Which ship?" Kira asked. "I saw a Talvarian courier docked in Slip 7 during my surveillance. Fast, well-maintained, and the owner is currently in the station cantina drinking heavily. He will not notice his ship is gone until morning." Vexthar pressed several commands into the junction box. Somewhere above them, alarms began to sound. Red emergency lights activated in the docking bay. Kira heard the automated announcement warning of a possible atmospheric leak, instructing all personnel to evacuate immediately. They climbed up through an access hatch and emerged into the chaos of the evacuation. Workers and travelers rushed toward the exits. No one paid attention to 2 more figures moving against the flow, heading deeper into the bay. Slip 7 held a sleek silver ship, built for speed rather than cargo. Vexthar approached the access hatch and placed his hand on the security panel. Kira expected him to override it somehow, but instead, he simply removed the entire panel, exposing the manual release beneath. "Not elegant, but effective," he said, pulling the release. The hatch opened with a hiss. They climbed inside and sealed the hatch behind them. The ship's interior was cramped but functional. Vexthar moved to the pilot's seat and began the startup sequence. His hands moved across unfamiliar controls with confidence. "You can fly?" Kira asked. "I can do many things," Vexthar replied. "Assassins must be versatile." The engines hummed to life. Outside, the docking bay was empty now, evacuated completely. Vexthar released the docking clamps and eased the ship out of its slip. They drifted toward the bay exit, moving slowly to avoid triggering automated defenses. Station traffic control would be confused right now, dealing with the environmental emergency. They would not notice one small ship departing until it was too late. Vexthar increased speed as they cleared the station, and suddenly they were free, racing away into open space. Kira let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. "We did it." "The easy part is done," Vexthar said. "Now comes the difficult part." He set the navigation computer for margin station and engaged the faster-than-light drive. The stars stretched into lines as they jumped to hyperspace. The journey would take 4 hours. Kira moved to the small communication console and began working. "I am going to access what data I can about Margin Station remotely. We need to know what we are walking into." End quote. "Tell me what you find," Vexthar said. "I will plan our approach." For the next hour, they worked in focused silence. Kira pulled public records, shipping manifests, and power consumption reports. She cross-referenced financial data with physical locations. Slowly, a pattern emerged. "The warehouse I identified is in the abandoned industrial sector," she said. "But according to these power records, it is using enough energy to run a small city. That much power would require a fusion reactor, but there is no reactor registered at that location." "A hidden reactor," Vexthar said. "Expensive and illegal. What would require that much power?" Kira's fingers flew across the console. "Manufacturing. Heavy manufacturing. The kind used to build ships or weapons or—" She stopped, her eyes widening. Oh no. What is it? 3 months ago, the Syndicate purchased the design specifications for Valdris military drones through a black market auction. The records were sealed, but I found references in leaked documents. I thought they were just reselling the plans, but what if they are building the drones themselves? Vexy's Thar's 4 eyes narrowed. Valdris drones are autonomous combat units. Illegal under Galactic Council law because they cannot distinguish between combatants and civilians. One swarm of those drones could devastate an entire city, or destabilize an entire region, Kira added. If the Syndicate deploys drones in the systems considering my peace treaties, it would reignite conflicts. Those systems would need to buy weapons again. The Syndicate would not just recover their lost profits, they would multiply them. She pulled up more data. And look at this. The Syndicate has been quietly buying up abandoned facilities on 12 different stations, all in strategic locations, all showing the same suspicious power consumption patterns. 12 facilities, Vexthar said slowly. They are planning simultaneous attacks across multiple systems, starting wars on purpose to sell weapons. The full scope of the plan was breathtaking in its cruelty. Kira felt cold. My treaties would have stopped this, not just by creating peace, but by exposing their whole operation. That is why they want me dead so badly. Then we give them what they want, Vexthar said. Kira looked at him, confused. We stage your death as you suggested, Vexthar explained. But we do it on Margin Station. Publicly. Dramatically. With many witnesses. The Syndicate will believe I succeeded. They will lower their guard. And while they celebrate, we infiltrate their facility and gather evidence. Evidence alone might not be enough, Kira said. We need to stop the drones from being deployed. If even one facility activates, people will die. Then we do both, Vexthar said. We gather evidence and sabotage their operation. When we present our findings to the Galactic Council, we will show them proof and give them disabled facilities. The Syndicate will have no way to threaten anyone. They dropped out of hyperspace near Margin Station. The old mining facility hung in space like a skeletal hand, its rings and spokes dark against the stars. Most of its sectors were abandoned, powered down, and forgotten. But in the industrial district, Kira could see lights burning in windows that should have been dark. There, she said, pointing. Warehouse Complex 7. That is where the power consumption is highest. Vexy Thar studied the station carefully. I count 6 security patrols visible from here. There will be more inside. This will require careful planning. First, we need to make my death convincing, Kira said. Where would be the best location for maximum witnesses? The central marketplace. Vexthar said immediately. It operates on all cycles. Hundreds of beings pass through every hour. Security cameras cover every angle. If I strike there, everyone will see. Everyone will believe. Kira opened her bag and pulled out a small device. My friend's special effects kit. It can simulate vital signs failing, create the appearance of wounds, even produce synthetic blood that matches my DNA. We set this up correctly, and no one will doubt what they see. When? Vexthar asked. Kira checked the station chronometer. In 3 hours. That gives us time to prepare and position ourselves. After the performance, you disappear. I hide. And then we meet at the warehouse at midnight station time. Vexthar looked at her for a long moment. You understand that once we do this, there is no going back. If we fail, if they discover you are alive, they will send an army. I know, Kira said. But if we do nothing, thousands die. Maybe millions. I cannot live with that. Neither can I, Vexthar said quietly. Not anymore. He guided their stolen ship toward a public docking slip, just another anonymous vessel among hundreds. Below them, Margin Station waited, its secrets hidden in darkness and lies. In 3 hours, the galaxy would witness the death of Ambassador Kira Chen at the hands of the legendary shadow-cased assassin. But in truth, something else would die. The Krillian Syndicate's plan, their secrets, their power. And perhaps, Kira thought, the old version of Vexthar as well. The weapon who never questioned his contracts. He was becoming something different now. Something better. They were both becoming something new. The central marketplace of Margin Station buzzed with activity. Merchants sold goods from 100 different worlds. The air smelled of exotic spices and machine oil. Travelers from dozens of species moved through the crowded space, their voices creating a constant hum of conversation. Kiara walked slowly through the market, pretending to browse the vendor stalls. Her heart hammered in her chest, but she kept her face calm. The special effects device was hidden beneath her shirt, already activated and ready. In her earpiece, she could hear Vexthar's quiet breathing as he tracked her from somewhere above. "I am in position," his voice whispered. "Are you ready?" "Yes," Kira said quietly, pretending to examine a display of gemstones. She moved toward the center of the marketplace, where the crowd was thickest and the security cameras had the best angles. She stopped near a fountain, turning as if to admire the water sculpture. Then Vexthar appeared. He materialized directly behind her, his blade gleaming in the marketplace lights. Gasps erupted from the crowd. People stumbled backward. Several screamed. Vexthar was a frightening sight, his silver skin reflecting light, his 4 violet eyes glowing with intensity. Kira spun around, her eyes wide with manufactured fear. "No, please," she said, loudly enough for nearby witnesses to hear. Vexthar's blade moved in a perfect arc. To anyone watching, it looked like the strike connected. Kira triggered the device beneath her shirt. Red liquid that matched her DNA bloomed across her chest. Her vital sign simulator flatlined, sending emergency signals to her medical implant. She fell backward, her body going limp. The special effects were perfect. Blood pooled beneath her. Her eyes stared at nothing. Medical scanners would show no heartbeat, no brain activity. Security alarms shrieked. Armed guards rushed toward them from every direction. But Vexthar was already gone, vanishing in an instant. The guards found only Kira's body and hundreds of witnesses who saw exactly what the Syndicate wanted them to see. The legendary shadow-cased assassin had struck again. Kira lay perfectly still as medics rushed to her side. They scanned her body. The readings confirmed what their eyes told them. Ambassador Kira Chen was dead. They covered her with a sheet and loaded her onto a medical transport for the station morgue. Inside the body bag, Kira allowed herself a small smile. The hard part was just beginning. 6 hours later, after the morgue staff had logged her body and left for their meal break, Kira climbed out of a ventilation shaft in the abandoned industrial sector. The special effects gel washed off easily with water. The vital sign simulator was disabled and hidden. She looked like herself again. Just another anonymous figure, in dark clothing. Vexthar waited in the shadows near Warehouse Complex 7. "The Syndicate received confirmation of your death 30 minutes ago," he said. "Their communications are celebrating. They believe they have won." "Good," Kira said. "That gives us an advantage. What did you learn about the facility?" 23 guards outside, unknown number inside. "The warehouse has been converted into a manufacturing plant. I saw assembly lines through the windows. They are building the drones in mass production. Hundreds of them." Kira felt sick. Hundreds of autonomous killing machines, ready to be deployed across the galaxy. "We need to get inside. Gather proof. And then shut it down." "I can teleport us past the outer guards," Vexthar said. "But once inside, we move together. No separation." Kira nodded. Vexthar placed his hand on her shoulder. The world blurred, Reality bent. And suddenly, they were standing inside the warehouse, hidden behind a stack of cargo containers. The scale of the operation was staggering. The warehouse stretched the length of 3 football fields. Assembly lines ran in perfect rows, each one building identical war drones. Robotic arms moved with precision, welding and assembling. The drones were sleek and deadly, each one equipped with plasma weapons and advanced targeting systems. Kira pulled out a recording device and began documenting everything. The assembly lines, the stockpiles of weapons, the shipping manifests showing delivery dates to 12 different systems. All the evidence they would need. "This is enough," she whispered. "We can take this to the council." "Not yet," Vexthar said. He pointed to a sealed door at the far end of the warehouse. "That leads to the control center. We need to access their network. Download their complete plans. Client lists, communication records, everything." They moved silently through the warehouse, using the machinery as cover. Workers operated the assembly lines, but they were focused on their tasks. No one noticed 2 shadows slipping between the containers. They reached the control center door. Vexthar examined the lock. "Biometric scanner. I cannot bypass it without triggering alarms." Kira smiled. "Then we trigger the alarms, but on our terms." She pulled out her datapad and connected wirelessly to the facility's environmental system. "Remember the trick you used at the docking bay? I learned from the best." She triggered a false fire alarm in the warehouse's west section. Sprinklers activated. Workers began evacuating. Chaos spread through the facility as people rushed for exits. In the confusion, a supervisor ran from the control center, leaving the door unsealed. Vexthar and Kira slipped inside before it closed. The control center was empty now. Rows of computer terminals displayed production schedules and shipping routes. Kira sat at the main console and began downloading files. Names, dates, financial transactions. Everything the syndicate had tried to hide. 5 minutes, Vexthar said, watching the door. "Then security will realize this is a false alarm." "I need 3, Kira said, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Outside, they could hear guards shouting, organizing search teams. The false alarm had bought them time, but not much. Kira's download completed. She copied the files to 3 different storage devices, hiding them in separate pockets. If they were caught, at least 1 copy might survive. "Now we sabotage," she said. She accessed the manufacturing system and began entering commands. Production schedules were deleted. Assembly line calibrations were randomized. Quality control protocols were disabled. By the time the syndicate discovered the damage, months of work would be ruined. The drones would be unusable. Their guidance systems scrambled beyond repair. "Done," Kira said. "Let's go." They ran from the control center as alarms began blaring for real this time. Security had discovered the intrusion. Guards poured into the warehouse from every entrance. Plasma fire lit up the darkness. Vexthar grabbed Kira's hand. "Hold on." He teleported them to the roof. Then to a neighboring building. Then another. Each jump took them farther from the warehouse, leaping across the station in impossible bounds. Guards fired at empty air where they had been moments before. Finally, they reached their stolen ship in the docking bay. Vexthar launched them into space as security lockdowns tried to seal the station. But they were already gone, jumping to hyperspace before the authorities could react. Safe in the quiet of faster-than-light travel, Kiara and Vexithar looked at each other. They were exhausted, covered in dust and sweat, but they had succeeded. "We did it," Kira said. "We did." Vexthar agreed. 2 days later, they arrived at Galactic Council headquarters. Kira had sent encrypted messages ahead, requesting an emergency session. When the council convened, she walked into the chamber alive and well. with Vex Thar beside her. The shock on the council members' faces was profound. Ambassador Chen was supposed to be dead. She presented everything: the recordings, the files, the evidence of 12 facilities building illegal weapons, the client lists showing which systems the syndicate planned to destabilize, the proof of their conspiracy to profit from manufactured wars. The council acted immediately. Military forces raided all 12 facilities. The Krillian syndicate was dismantled in a single, coordinated strike. Hundreds were arrested. Their assets were frozen. Their power was broken. Kira's peace treaties were not just approved. They were expanded to include provisions against weapons trafficking and autonomous combat systems. The galaxy moved toward peace, not through violence, but through law and justice. And Vex Thar stood before the council and spoke about his people, the Shadow-Cased. He explained how humans had shown him something his species had forgotten. That true strength was not in the ability to kill, but in the choice not to. The council established a new intelligence division, combining human analytical methods with the unique abilities of various species. Vex Thar became its first director. His people, the Shadow-Cased, were offered a new purpose. Instead of assassins, they could become guardians, protectors of peace rather than dealers of death. Months later, Kiara stood at her office window on the council station, looking out at the stars. Vex Thar appeared beside her, no longer sneaking but simply visiting a friend. "I have been thinking," he said, "about that first night, when you turned around with a knife at my throat." "What about it?" Kiara asked. "You told me you predicted my arrival through pattern recognition and mathematics. But there was more to it than that. Was there not?" Kira smiled. "You are right. I also gambled. I bet that someone professional enough to watch for 3 weeks would be professional enough to listen for 3 minutes. I bet on your curiosity, on your honor, on the possibility that you were more than just a weapon." "It was a dangerous bet," Vex Thar said. "The best ones usually are," Kira replied. "But I was right. Was I not? You were already waiting behind yourself. Knife at your own throat. You just needed someone to show you the blade." Vex Thar looked at her with all 4 eyes. Then, for the first time since they met, he smiled. "Humans are very strange," he said. "But I am beginning to understand why you survive." "We survive," Kira said, "because we see people instead of weapons, possibilities instead of threats." Outside the window, ships moved peacefully between the stars. Wars that might have happened never did. Lives that might have been lost were saved. And somewhere in the galaxy, other beings were learning what Kira and Vex Thar had proven: that the greatest strength is not the ability to kill, but the wisdom to choose not to. That humans, despite their weakness, had something to teach the stars. And that sometimes the most important victories are won not with weapons, but with understanding, courage, and a simple cup of tea. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Sonnet 4.5.